Let's face it, solar panels are expensive and may seem like tomorrow's energy source to many. But environmentalist turned entrepreneur Danny Kennedy brought to Planet Forward a concept he thinks can change the equation.
There's still a misconception that solar costs a lot of money. If financed, solar is less expensive than the conventional forms of electricity generation.
Kennedy once was with Greenpeace. Now he's co-founder and president of a company called Sungevity. His idea, not to sell you those panels, but lease them.
The customer doesn't have to pay anything up front, and a bank effectively pays for about half of the value of the system.
Sungevity uses special satellite mapping software to design the system, which keeps costs down. So Danny, how'd you get this thing off the ground? How did this whole idea of this business get started?
Well, the big barriers to adoption that I saw over a decade were not to do with the technology. They were to do with the upfront cost of the technology and the hassle factor, if you like. And so we knew that if you could finance it, you could massively increase the adoption when you get rid of the upfront cost.
I'm looking at something over your shoulder there. It looks like a solar array. Would you explain how that would actually work if somebody wanted to lease that solar?
As I spin around, I'm standing on a flat roof looking at our roof next door, and that's the solar array that Sungevity installed. It's owned by Sungevity, really. You lease it as a customer, so we lease that and pay per month for the electricity that comes from it.
What's the business model behind solar leasing? Well, the way it's been up till now is you're the homeowner, nice house, and you want to put solar panels on the roof. Fair enough. You sign the contract, and what do you know? Uncle Sam steps in with a big check in the form of a tax credit. That lowers your upfront costs to maybe $15,000 or $20,000, but even with that, that's a lot of money, and it could take years, maybe decades, to get the return on that investment. New business model, enter the bank. The bank gets the big check in the form of the tax credit from the federal government. It's one way for it to offset its lending. You get a smaller monthly payment. We call it a lease. Lease payments typically come in around $50 a month, Kennedy says. We asked one of his new customers to go to Planet Forward and do the math for us. Chris says he has to see how the numbers will play out, but predicts his panel will supply 40% of his electricity and save $20 to $30 a month. Keep in mind, though, leases are for 10 years. Sell the house, and you'll have to pay off the lease if the new homeowner doesn't want it. So the question is, could solar leasing be a game changer? Professor Jorge Rivera is a colleague of mine here at the George Washington University in the School of Business and author of Business and Public Policy. What would happen if the government took away the tax credits and the bank doesn't have that big upfront chunk of change?
Well, it will significantly reduce the profitability of the whole model, and not many companies will be interested in entering into this type of investment.
Is that a danger that that could change like that?
Well, yeah, because in 2016, most of these tax incentives provided by the federal government are set to expire.
Expire?
Yeah.
Rivera says one of solar's biggest challenges, making tax incentives permanent, the same way fossil fuels have permanent tax breaks. Danny, what happens if Uncle Sam comes along and decides to unplug, because of all the deficit spending, unplug all this money that's been going to solar?
If tax credit went away, which it won't because it's in law until 2016, we would work out a way to make this work because the economics are fantastic.
Danny Kennedy insists we're in a transition phase and the economics of the industry are going to change a lot in the coming years. But if tax credits were to go away, he says he just might finance his project with debt. Could solar bonds be far away? One thing's for sure, with all the belt tightening about to happen here in Washington, and with renewables still a lot more expensive than traditional fuels, more financing innovations in the solar industry may become about as important as, well, sunny days. I'm Frank Sesno with Planet Forward.